Uh-oh, I just fucked up.
I can tell. He went live already.
Am I live right now?
Yeah, you just went live.
Oh,
You were
cool.
supposed to wait.
I'm live. We're live.
That's
Yes, we are.
okay.
Look at that. I screwed up again. Anyway, whatever. Okay. Welcome to Living by Oak Values. For the past 2 years, we have laid our foundation with core values brick by brick by brick, root by root, and we've just finished building the inner foundation. Now we are stepping into a new series, Masculinity in Relationships. Today, we are talking about what it means to give her space. Because leadership isn't about clutching or control or chasing. It's about showing up steady, clear, and strong enough to guide without grasping.
Hey, Garrett. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, so yeah?
Glad
Yeah,
to see you.
yeah. How are you doing?
Doing all right, brother.
Garrett, how you doing, bud?
Uh, yeah. So today's episode, and the reason you're very good because I know you work with a lot of men who talk about giving her space, and we kind of went ahead. We pushed the button too early by accident, so we're going a little live at the moment. So you kind of have to go off the cuff without any prep.
I like it.
I'm sorry about that. And we're going to how it's like the how do you keep the frame when she asks for space? Is more or less where we're going with it.
Hmm.
Um, I know personally, I freaked out when she asked for space. Actually, she didn't really ask for space, but I still freaked out. And I was the needy guy, panicking and doing all that. Um, how did y'all react, Garrett? How did y'all react?
I was similar to you. I panicked. I think most men panic, and I think that most men will continue to panic, and that's like part of what I want to discuss about how they can avoid the natural reaction, I think.
Mm.
How did you react, Garrett?
Oh, I was right in there with you guys, which, by the way, thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to catch up with you guys. I missed you, not seeing you in Post Falls in this last meetup, but I was glad you
Yes.
made it out in May, right? Yeah, today's
Yeah,
topic. The idea, because there's two ways this could go. We could talk about how do you give space? Isn't that what would fix this? Or we could talk about how do you keep your frame when she just needs space and you're noticing that you're full of panic, you're full of anxiety, you can't sleep at night, and you're kind of like, you shouldn't, but you keep finding yourself, pursuing because you want to close the gap. You don't like how that gap feels. And so that's what we're really sitting with in a moment when a wife or girlfriend, somebody you want to be close with says, I need space, I need distance, I need you to back off, I need breathing room. Well, in that moment, I did everything a man should not do. So I'm one of those guys that's like, I can tell you right now what not to do. It'll accelerate things so much worse, so much faster than you could imagine. And so the wisdom to take in this moment is do not use your feeling or internal struggle or pressure or things you're experiencing in you as the guide to your next step. Because that's kind of what got us here. We had something in us that was uncomfortable in the past, and we have a relationship with that discomfort. Each man's might look a little different. For one man, he might pull back, wall off, emotionally remove himself. He avoids things. Or another man might, you know, be the one that makes her need to change so that it goes away. Well, if you would just do this and that, then I wouldn't feel like this. So obviously, this is a problem of what you're doing. He thinks his struggle is an instruction manual. And so that's where I would guide this conversation today is talking more about how does a man live with a new instruction manual where he can be curious with his feelings, but they're not running the show anymore.
Wow, I like that. That's deep.
I do like that. And me and Gary had a conversation about because he kept asking, "Oh, well, if Robert, I need space, what would you do?" And I would be like, okay, I wouldn't give space because it's not mine to give. I would just say, if you want space, take space. And it dawned on me is it might be the interpretation of what does space mean for each person, I guess. I mean, it throws your head in a loop. As soon as you say space, it could be a trigger. Like, oh, now we're going into, one of us is going to get lost in Voyager kind of deal or something else. So there is a internal, oh, shit, I don't know the word, for internal, what's the word?
I have no idea.
Trauma. I guess it's an internal trauma that says, hey, what does space mean? Because when I heard Gary tell me that if I ask for space, and he's like, I think physical space, not emotional space. And he's talking about emotional space. So, and I think a lot of men think of it as abandonment sometimes, because that's how I first took it.
Hmm.
So,
I think most men don't know how to take it. I think that, like for me, I instantly thought it meant divorce. It meant you were breaking up. And in the end, that is what it turned out to be. But as I've done this work, I realized that if I had taken the proper steps and looked into myself, that space was just, she was unable to show up the way she wanted to because I was suffocating her, because I was up her ass. And if I had been the man that I was in the beginning and stayed true to myself, then either we wouldn't have come to this spot, or I would have known that she needs that space and that in that moment, it's time for me to self reflect versus blow up and cry and kick and scream like a little boy.
Again, what you feel is probably the opposite of what you should do because you
Absolutely.
feel like doing that.
Absolutely.
Uh,
So, what would you say to somebody who, how do you tell somebody to act differently than how you feel, especially in a moment that is that heavy?
well, uh, Robert touched it head on when he said there's some kind of trauma or some kind of trigger that lives in you that
Mm,
makes this difficult to be with. And so that's where the deep work comes in. Why does it bother you when somebody is needing something why do you take that personally? And if you have been leaning on your wife for a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose, a sense of reason why you sacrifice, if she's the thing you orbit around in life, the second she steps out of that orbit, you don't know who you are. You don't know what you stand for. You don't know why you get out of bed. You don't know anything about what motivates you. You are stuck with your self-love, your self-clarity, your self-purpose, your self-mission. And if you don't know what those are, you are in a land of nothing all of a sudden. And so, of course, you want her to not be over there. So, in knowing how to be going forward when she just needs a breather, those are the kinds of things that I know you guys would work with the client on, specifically one thing at a time to build out that clarity of who you are, even when she's not around, even when it's just you and your own thoughts. Starting to not just have this imagery of, oh, I would be a great husband. That's not specific enough. Like moment to moment, how are you taking care of your well-being? How do you show yourself love? How do you show yourself that you care about yourself? How do you take the next step towards something that inspires you and puts a smile on your face and makes you excited and puts a spark in your eye? Like if all of those needs have been stuck into your wife, no wonder she wants space. So here we're unplugging these extension cables that have been stuck into her, right? And you're standing there with like 8 extension cords in your hand and you need an outlet. And she's not the outlet right now. So you got to decide, what am I plugging these into?
right? Yeah. So what did you do for you personally when it happened to you?
Well, I took it personally and it was like, well, if there's a problem, let's fix it. And then I begged and cried and pleaded, felt like garbage, uh, tried to spend more time with her to build a deeper connection, gave her lots of flowers, showed up, surprised her at work, booked vacations, went over the top to be the most amazing husband that a woman would never say no to. And I would liken it to this. Let's say you as a man, you're in the kitchen and you're cooking yourself a nice breakfast. And there's this big, nasty, maggot filled, you know, those flies, like when there's a dead mouse nearby, one of them whoppers, right? it keeps hitting you in the face. You know, it's trying to go in your nose and you're sitting there trying to fry your eggs. And you want the fly just to get out of there. In fact, you want to murder the thing. Let's say you swat at it and it goes outside and you close the screen door. And you're sitting there cooking your breakfast and then you look over there and it's sitting there at the screen waiting for you to open it. Like, you don't want that fly to come back in. So you're not going to crack the door. That's what it's like for your partner. All right. You've been attached to her in all these ways. And what it feels like is it's a bug up her nose. It's in her mouth. It's everywhere. It needs sex. It needs love. It needs connection. It needs time. It needs. It needs certainty. Are we okay? Are you okay? Is this working? Are we getting better? Am I being better? She's like, she just gets, her next phase is just get the fly out of the kitchen. And that's called I need space. What the man doesn't realize is there was many stages leading up to that point where she finally, as a last straw, was like, the fly needs to go. So now the problem is if you're still stuck to the screen waiting for it to crack a little bit, ooh, she's holding my hand, maybe we'll have sex tonight. Bzz, you buzz back in. She will increase the need for space. It'll go from, you know, I need my personal space to I'm going to sleep in the basement to I'm going to stay at my sister's to I'm filing for separation. Like, she'll keep increasing the need for space if the fly doesn't learn that when I'm outside, I don't have to stay stuck to the screen hoping that she'll crack it. I can actually go enjoy the sunshine. I can hang out with some brothers. I can go do a project. I can go fishing. I can have a really great day. And someday you might come buzzing by and the kitchen door is wide open. And you come in and you sit down and you reconnect. But a man who can't provide that emotional distance for her to just to feel the release of pressure, because that's what we're talking about here, how to take pressure off of somebody, that screen door is going to stay shut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. You know, so when this happened to me, I remember I read Steve Horstman's book, The Tools for the Desperate Husband, and
Mm-hmm.
I took a lot of the stuff out of there. I was like, okay, and then I had my manipulating lines I needed from stuff I saw on YouTube and whatnot, and I played the game. I did not do any work or minimal work, and this happened in October years ago, but it was October, and then it was Christmas time, and she was moved in with her mother, and I remember going to the house, and we were outside, and we were just talking, and I threw the lines down on her. Next thing I know, we're kissing. Boom! I thought I was back in there. I was like, we are good. Just like you said, I was that fly that got back in, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when it got worse. And that was it. It wasn't 2 weeks later. She was like, we need a divorce,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, but we were just kissing last week. I don't get it. And then I got into doing this work and I realized, man, and I was telling Rob that, you know, a few months, actually 6, 8 months afterwards, she had come by my place and she's like, why could you not have done this prior? And I realized at that point, I was better, way better than I was, but I could not have her in my life anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I had surpassed, I needed to move on.
Now, this is exactly what was going on in the relationship up till now. Before she asked for the space, there was a season where she kind of noticed the relationship wasn't up to standard, what she would love. And so she tried to do what she could in her way of thinking to improve that. And so maybe she started hanging out with friends more to try to get her needs met. Maybe she started doing therapy, thought maybe she has some shit she needs to figure out. And so it's kind of like a self-improvement season. Maybe she's got a gym membership, even if she never went. You know, she tried. And during that season, the husband starts to think, oh, well, I'm glad my wife's getting her shit together. It's been kind of not great around here the last few years. I'm glad she's doing something. All right. So he doesn't even see that it's because the fly's in the kitchen that she's doing these things.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks, so he continues as he is. Well, soon she starts to kind of check out because she realizes that, wait a minute, I can't thrive under this. I tried. And he's starting to actually feel like dead weight. Like, I'm out here trying to improve myself. I'm understanding how relationships work, and he's doing nothing. So that distance starts to be like, I can't do life with a man who's way down here when I'm operating at this level. And so that's what you noticed when you guys met later is, wow, you're up here now? Oh, damn.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that would have been nice back then.
Yeah. But so that's one message I want to get across to the listeners and the watchers and whoever. that it's so important to respond versus react. And before you get to this stage, you need to continue to be the man that you were when she met you, the man that attracted her. So
And what was that man like for you?
for me, it was I was a surfer. I went out with the guys, drank beer. I call myself a beer connoisseur. I was into all kinds of good beer, and she was also when we met. But I dropped all my friends. I dropped all the guys, and we drank beer together. And I was into fancy food and cooking. I was a chef. I let all that go just for her. And then we had our daughter, and that was it. I never left home unless it was for work. I made sure I was home to be a husband, to be a dad, and I was up her butt sideways. So
This home I'm in here was built 100 years ago, and apparently the code back then was let's put one outlet in each bedroom. So each of my rooms, I got one of them outlet strips stuck on the wall, and every lamp and cord and thing is like, it's just a rat nest, right? That's what I was thinking of while you were like, I used to be a beer connoisseur, I liked fancy food, I had a life, I enjoyed surfing, I had all these things. And so you used to have all these plugs plugged into these sources of well-being for you. And then once you met her, one at a time, you plugged it into her until it was a big old rat nest of cords, right, on that one outlet. And then we're sitting there so confused now, like, why do you need space? What's wrong? And she's just drained. She's like, I can't keep doing this. And you're like, doing what? What's wrong? Like, we're so oblivious that
we
we
are.
were undoing our sense of well-being over time and domesticating ourselves.
Yep. Why do we do it though? That's the question.
Well, that's a good question.
I mean, now I look at myself and that will never happen. Rob and I were talking to that would never. He wouldn't do that to his new fiance, and I would never do that again. But what makes a man do that?
I have a theory, but I want to hear what Robert has to say.
Well, I would say it's got to be like a past trauma or needing acceptance. You were taught that you needed to have somebody accept you. And that's my opinion. Um, and I kind of want to shift uh, to say it's. I don't know that I was that man initially. I think I had to go through this pain to become a different man.
That's kind of where my
I
mind
think I
went.
was needy. Yeah, I think I was needy even at work, even in my early childhood. I was still a needy. And then it took this to happen to where I can say, nope, I'm not needy anymore.
Hmm.
I think as we come into life as little boys, we naturally looked to caregivers to provide us with some things: shelter, food, fun times, travel to see my friend. We just naturally looked to others to give us stuff in life. And we carry that mindset subconsciously into the relationship and don't even know it. We're like, she should be all these things in our head that we've decided previously and didn't realize it because we think that what we need is out there somewhere and somebody else holds it. We don't realize that as an adult, full ass grown man, you find it within you and then you bring your best gifts to this life. And so we're undoing a boyish way of looking at life. We call it the initiation, we call it your rite of passage. And it takes this kind of pain for you to finally flip the script in your brain and go, oh, other people don't hold my well being. They don't hold my happiness. They don't hold my purpose. They don't hold um, my values. I find those within me and I connect to them internally. And I stop taking other people personally when they don't show up with these different things because I know who I am. I don't second guess myself. I don't explain myself. And now I have the capacity to show some empathy and curiosity and understanding to what it might be like in your world because I'm not running the narrative in my brain every time we talk of how this is happening to me. It's just another person's experience, right? You can relate to it differently when you're not taking it personally.
Yeah.
And so going into that, that's actually the broader topic is we're talking about how to keep your friend. because by not taking it personally, you keep your emotions out of it, and it allows you to keep. And I don't want to say calm because I don't think calm is truly like keeping your frame because you're going to get frustrated, but you show calmness, but you don't try to control something when it's when you can't really control it, I guess.
I would say that that frame is knowing the behaviors that align to your values. A lot of men know their
Mm.
values, but they don't know what it would look like or how that energy would be on them when they're living it. So, like, let's say maybe a man says, I value honesty. And then he's standing in the bathroom and he's getting his butt chewed out for not putting the cap on the toothpaste. How does that value help you through that scenario? It doesn't. It's worthless information. You need to know, how does a man who values honesty embrace the honest truth when it's thrown in his face? Does he smile? Does he relax? Does he put his hand behind his head and go, wow, baby, this is really bothering you. Tell me more. Is your day pretty rough today? Like, he has to be able to know what it looks like, the behavior for what he values, and that gives him instructions, which is his frame. He follows that because he decided it in a previous time when he was calm and relaxed, thinking clearly, maybe talking with a brother like this, and he realized that one's important to me. I would hold that one. That's the hill I would die on. So then in that moment, when his feelings are riled up, the little boy is like, why am I in trouble with mommy again? You can hear your feelings, feel your feelings. They're going to do what they do, but you're going to kind of set them aside and choose who you want to be because of what you value in that moment, which is how your brain writes new paradigms. I know one client who wore a rubber band. Every time his feelings started getting intense, he'd snap the rubber band to remind him, this feeling is just my trauma and trigger. It's not my frame. It's not my value. It's not what I'm going to do right now. But our brains are so wired to respond or react so quickly to the feeling. We don't realize that our power was right in that moment when the feeling hit you to be able to step out of that and go, who am I? And then hold yourself to that, because that creates what's called integrity. And you are not a man of integrity if every time your feelings change, you behave differently.
Yeah.
I like that. The who am I? That actually does it does stop you because it says, is this who I really want to be? And if you're reacting to somebody constantly, 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 you're not in your best self. Or if you're reacting to somebody else and you're going, is this who I want to be? Is I am, oh shoot, now I forgot it. Oh man, that's okay. We talked about it when we were doing another. We talked about this in integrity. I think it was.
That last week, was it not?
No, when we actually did the integrity value, we talked
Oh,
about I am who I am. That's what it is.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm.
my future tattoo.
yeah.
I want a Popeye tattoo that says, I am what I am.
That's awesome.
Yes.
You'll
So,
always look back on yourself with pride when you held to your frame because it's who you wanted to be. And on a very basic level, let's say you decided you're a man who, stays calm in the midst of chaos. If you punch a hole in the wall when there's chaos, you're going to look back on yourself tomorrow and go, yeah, I'm not proud of that. There's a hole in the wall. That's not who I am. So it's for your own sake that you have the frame and you hold it. The benefit is that it helps your relationship, right? We're focusing it back to men can't save relationships, but they can save themselves. And sometimes the relationship follows that. And we got to really keep our eye on the target of what will make me proud of myself when I look in the mirror.
absolutely. If you can't save the relationship, you are the most important person because she can leave. You'll find someone else. But in that meantime, you have to find happiness and comfort within yourself. And I was telling Rob about the whole, when this first happened, I remember my daughter was gone, my wife was gone, and I sat on that couch and I had a bottle and I was a mess. I was lonely. I hated myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now I sit on that couch and I have a class of tea and I love my company. I'm actually,
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy my time so much more, which is me, a book, and a cup of tea.
Hell yeah.
So, and I would never think, and it's so hard to explain to another man going through this, that there's going to come a time if you put in this work and look into yourself, deep in yourself, that you will find, you will get to that spot where you are just fine by yourself. And that's when you can lead a good relationship.
I've heard counter arguments, actually, interestingly enough, that that's the one side of, if you can't be happy without a relationship, you'll never be happy in one. I've heard counter arguments of, no, you're a social creature. You're never going to have full happiness unless somebody's in your life. So you're going to meet all kinds of varying opinions on the
Of course.
internet, right? And as you do this work, what starts to happen is the proof's in the pudding, man. When you shift your paradigms and you start living differently, and your happiness comes back, and sex comes back, relationship comes back, you just kind of look at your own track record and the men around you, and you start to know your truth. And you won't be easily sucked down every new YouTube video you watch that has new ideas, because I was in that phase for a while too. Oh, is your wife in space? Needing space? Do these 3 things, it'll turn it around. I guarantee the last 90 guys I worked with had it fixed in 3 days, whatever. You're not going to get sucked into all those attempts, because what it is, when you keep shifting gears to try to get an outcome, it's like a fly coming back to the same screen door, but each time he's got a different colored tie on, right? It's like, it's not addressing the underlying thing. The underlying thing is your relationship with discomfort. Can you relax in discomfort? And again, us men overthink it because we're like, what's the process? What's the course I should take? What therapist? Okay, did you take a breath when you were uncomfortable? Or did you stand there and let it burn in the top of your head and make you say things you regret? Like, the first step is just breathe. It's like, people will ask me questions or clients all the time. She said this, what do I do? Hey, my marriage just did this. Is there a way to turn it around? My first question is, did you remember to take a bunch of deep breaths and relax? Your truth always speaks to you when you're relaxed. If you're constricted, you can't access your inner wisdom. And the inner wisdom is what you're going to learn to follow going forward, not somebody else's path necessarily. And that trust of your inner wisdom is what makes you unshakable. Because you guys would be like this already with, like, let's say, fixing an engine. You've tuned a carburetor before, you've sharpened points before, you know what they act like when they don't work, you know what they act like when they do work. So even if somebody stands there and tries to tell you how to adjust points, you're just like, I know how to do it. Your opinion doesn't mean anything to me because I know what I'm doing. You start to get that kind of trust with yourself when your inner wisdom becomes the compass you keep consulting with to decide what to do next. Because each situation is a little different. There's different dynamics, there's different risks, there's different legal systems, different all kinds of things at play. But when you're completely relaxed, you've taken deep breaths, this little knowing comes up from your gut. And it tells you, then you just know. And I tell guys it's like this. I've had dogs through the years that I've had to have put down because they got cancer or an injury. And there's that moment where you just know it's time, because it's been suffering and maybe it's getting worse and you tried some treatments or whatever. But there's that one day you look at your dog and he looks at you and you have a knowing. You're like, it's time, guys, we got to put him down. It's that clear and in your bones of what you should do next when you're relaxed and you're not buzzing around with your hair on fire trying to fix things so that your discomfort goes away.
Yeah.
I like
I'm glad we
that.
had you on for this one.
Actually, I want to. Me and Gary had an argument about give her space, and I think it was deep down. I didn't like the word give because it assumes that I give somebody space, and it's like, I don't give. And I was like, Gary, that's not right. I don't agree with that. Blah, blah, blah. And we came to a word that says accommodate. If you accommodate her, you're understanding that it's kind of like that's a different word that gives the same benefit as give her space versus you're accommodating. And I was like, that in my head, logically, that made more sense. And so if if I was to say, I'm more accommodating to her, or I this and that and the other. It's easier for me to keep my frame if I use a different verbiage, I guess. And so I was like, got it. And so
I love that you found what worked for you and what clicked. That's what I mean by
yeah.
every man will come to a truth that he knows is his truth and he's unshakable in it because it came from his inner wisdom and he should live by it. And to not would be to violate your own values and would bring you out of integrity. And so it's a very dangerous thing to start doing to yourself. But yeah, the word, another word I've substituted to help guys understand it differently is the word detachment. Because when we're practicing healthy detachment, even in a healthy relationship, what we're doing is we're allowing another person to experience life how they experience it. I don't need to get involved with that. And if right now her experience is that she feels pressured and she feels like she needs breathing room, that's just a person experiencing their own feelings. I don't have to
Mhm.
read into it. I don't have to fix it for them. You guys are familiar with the drama triangle where I was the guy that needed to rescue damsels in distress. It's like, oh, whoa, you're in trouble. I'll save your day. It's like, no,
Yeah.
it's not I'm just going to be present with it, but I don't need to do anything with it. So when you're detached from somebody, it means they can go up, they can go down, they can go sideways. And my day doesn't do that. It might go up and down because I stubbed my toe or missed a job, but it's nothing to do with her feelings. It's my day, right? Our days don't go up and down in tandem. We're detached, and that's what the detachment is. And until you give a woman the emotional room to be who she is, and you are maintaining who you are, she's gonna keep a part of her heart unavailable to you because she knows you can't handle it. She's testing to see, can you handle my range when she brings you some color? Now, the first thing some guys go to when I bring that up is he's like, well, I mean, I'm not going to tolerate her abuse. She's crossing the line. It's like, well, unless she's literally like committing fraud or just threw a frying pan out your window, you probably could stretch a little bit in the capacity of range that you can be around. It's actually not that toxic when a woman is just having moods, right? You can just remain in your own lane and let her have her lane.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So, question for you. So, and we've heard this before, when a client comes and says, "How much time before I can go back?" It's my favorite question. What do you
Oh
tell them?
man, I get that one so much.
It's it's
And
it's been 72 hours. I mean, can I go? Can the fly come in?
exactly. First off, because most men use their discomfort as instructions, their pent up sexual energy, he thinks that's guidance on when we should probably, do something now. Man, we haven't had sex in like 2 weeks, man. I think she's had enough space. It's like, okay, let's go back to the idea that your inner struggle is not your guidepost for what happens next. You breathe through that. You come back to what you value and who you are, and it's probably going to be more time than you want to admit because that also is uncomfortable, and that's what we're trying to get you to be comfortable with is uncomfortable. So think of a number that's so big that you couldn't hardly stomach it, and it's probably that one. All right, who would you have to be to make it to that one? Because that's probably going to be even a little bit short of what it really is, because that's exactly what the problem has been all along is your ability to sit in discomfort and just be okay. So what we're really getting down to is how we think, because how we think about discomfort is creating the discomfort. If
Mm,
I told you you got to wait 300 days and I'm going to give you $1 million, you could probably handle that. The thought of getting $1 million is pretty nice. If I said you got to wait 300 days, I'm going to chop your foot off, you probably would struggle with sitting that. Each day closer would give you a different feeling, but it's not happened yet. It's just your thoughts about it that are creating the pain. There's no difference in your reality, whether it's 1 million days and 300 days or you get your foot cut off. Right now, neither are happening. So why would me telling you one or telling you the other be good news or bad news? It's because you're interpreting it to mean something. And so when you're doing the deeper work, you're getting down to what meaning am I giving this that makes me feel discomfortable? That meaning could probably be challenged. Is it really happening right now? Are you really never having sex for the rest of your life? Did you really get blue balls and they exploded and now you can't procreate? It's like, come on.
okay, so
I actually thought that was real. I actually did. I was like, that's going to happen to me. I freaked out. I was like, oh no.
okay, so I gave her space. She's gone. I'm working on myself. How does she know that I'm working on myself if I'm not knocking on the door saying, "Hey, look at me"?
I'm glad you're asking all the questions you've been asked these. Yeah.
I'm actually trying to get a better answer out of you that I can use.
You know, there's an element of spiritual confidence a man must attain to, where he trusts the process and he knows I always bring it to something that's undeniable in the way the universe works. When you plant seeds, you get a plant that grows from the seed. And whatever plant seed you planted will be the plant you get. And so when you're planting seeds, that's what you're doing during the season of I'm going to work on myself. She needs pressure removed. I'm practicing healthy detachment. You're planting seeds. So think of it as right now I'm stopping everything, going into a season of planting, and at some point you do get to reap a harvest. But first you need to eat the harvest you've been planting for the last decade because there's a gestation period in this garden that you're planting in. And if you've been planting resentment, frustration, neediness, disrespect, sexual pressure, if you've been planting that in your wife for quite a few years, you've got truckloads of harvest you're going to have to eat before the new seeds start coming out. And so it's going to look like this. It's going to look like I know that in this back to the spiritual confidence, I've had moments where I thought of somebody and then they called me. Man, I can't even explain that. It's like that. She knows in her bones because she has a sixth sense that men are not really wired with. She can see it in the small little way you glanced at her when you crossed paths for 30 seconds on Monday. In that instant, she could smell the change or not. That's how fast and attuned the feminine is. Where the man thinks, I got to really set a track record. She's got to see it all. I need to tell her about every book I've read and every epiphany that I think of differently now. No, you just need to breathe differently the next time you cross paths in the hallway. She will know. And even if you're living separately and you never see each other, there's this weird invisible thing that happens. And so you stop everything, you spend a time planting new things, and then at some point you get to invite her, make little bids of invitation into the new life you've built. But you are not ready for the invitation, to send her the invitation until you're comfortable and happy and relaxed and you're not needy and you're okay, even if she never joins you in that awesomeness. So the clock we think is on her wrist. It's really on ours. It's like, are you happy? Are you grounded? Are you clear on where you're headed in life and what you're doing next week that you can't wait to accomplish? Or who are you? And is it vivid in your mind of what you want to be able to smile about when you hit your deathbed and what the small steps are looking like until we get there? Like once you're secure and grounded and relaxed in that purpose and mission and values for you, you are probably in a season now where you could start inviting her in a little more than just letting the universe do it.
That was good.
So in basic though, you don't truly get into your frame until you get into that season. Into your true frame when you say, I know who I am, or I'm happy enough to be who I am. Are you in your frame where where you know that emotions aren't going to discomfort you, I guess. So
I tell men that their frame is knowing what they stand for, knowing what boundaries protect those things, knowing your clear vision of your future, um, and having some clarity about what it means to be masculine. There's some specific things that masculine energy is about that he must be grounded in. And so I tell him when he has those things strong in him, he has like an umbrella that he's walking through life with. And anything that steps under that umbrella is now shielded by his frame. So he's built the umbrella for himself. And now he has a little utopia in this world of chaos, confusion, and turmoil where somebody could come alongside you and take a breather because you've got this awesome, not just lifestyle built, like I have a big house and a car that's reliable, but like the way you're handling life. Like they'd want to be by your side as you go through. Now you have something that she can feel protected to be under. But sometimes this is where, if you've struggled with nice guy stuff, she's the one that needs to feel the shield of that to know that it exists. So she is going to potentially act out worse going forward for a time to see if you have spine, if you have boundaries, if you have a shield. Because if you can't hold them to her, she's not going to believe you even have one at all. So it comes down to the idea, if you can't stand up for yourself, how could you stand up for anybody else? Because at the end of the day, that's the underlying thing that feminine's looking for is, where am I safest?
Mm. That was a lot. I usually tell them that, if you have your values and your boundaries, that's the start of your frame. I mean, even your future, like, I don't know. My futures don't die. So I just feel like those, that to know your values and your boundaries, that's the start of that is a good start for a frame.
Hell yeah.
Can we use the frame as a shield? I really like that analogy. That was a beautiful
It was.
way of using frame.
It was amazing.
I know you own it at the moment, but that was just to describe it as a shield is almost exactly what it feels like too, because it protects you from all the stuff on the chaos that we talked about weeks ago. It's like if you're in your frame, the chaos doesn't bother you. You are the warrior with the shield, I guess.
Absolutely.
Like, here's a super practical way the shield would create safety. I mean, let's say you have a boundary around the kinds of people that get to come into your house. And maybe somebody comes over and they start snorting cocaine on your house and they pull out a firearm and you set a boundary. You're out, off the property. Go. You've kicked him out. He met your shield. But if you've struggled with having clear boundaries and you thought, well, maybe he just needs a helping hand and he'll think differently if I talk with him, or, well, my wife will tell him to go, I'm just gonna let her deal with it. Like, if you don't have a shield, people around you start to feel like they're in danger when they're in your little world you've built. And so you're not doing it to save marriages. You're doing it because in my house, that's not a thing, right? The rules of your house. You are the king of this kingdom, and people need to know what the rules are there. And Mark Dredska is the one that introduced me to the idea of, imagine what a sport would be like if we didn't have rules. Let's say you threw the entire NFL into a field and you're like, all right, here's a ball, figure something out. Nobody would pursue that. Nobody would work out for it or train or invest in it. It had to have rules. This is a foul. Here's how you make a point. That's the opposing team. Here's your side. Until the rules were made, nobody could be successful at this thing that was made up. So you're about to make up this awesome life you're going on an adventure in. It's like you've got in your, I'll use the sailboat analogy. You've got in your boat and you're figuring out the coordinates for this thing. You get to have rules for your boat. But if you make the rules on, like, well, what do you want, honey? What would make you feel safe? What do you need? What do the children need? Like, if you make all the rules for everybody else, you'll end up as the captain under deck, starving with some kind of virus you can't shake, incapable of actually sailing the boat. Right? And then she's out there trying to paddle it. And then you wonder why she wants to jump out your boat and get somebody else's boat. So that's why it's all about you. It's your boat. What makes you want to paddle it? Where are you wanting to take it? What motivates you to set boundaries? Where is your line in the sand for what you want to wake up to? And with that kind of clarity, now when people get on your boat, they're like, wow, I like what lifestyle's like on deck here. Boy, I could hang out here for a while. And that polarizing man will immediately create another group of people that are like, no, thank you. I don't like your boat. I don't like the rules of your boat. I'm out. Until you've polarized a crowd like that, you don't know who your true followers are.
Yeah. Wow.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
That was wonderful. Yeah. Loved it.
Try to end on that one, Gary.
I got nothing. We should probably wrap it up because that was perfect right there. That was a perfect ending.
I like it.
Yes. Okay. You want me to end it up now?
Yeah, that was a good ending right there. That was golden.
Well, that was fun, guys. Thanks for having me on today.
Dude, thank you for thank you for coming in, man. Thank you very much.
I actually forgot where my wrap up was. Hold on. I didn't put it in on the paper right. All right. And that's a wrap. This remember that, oh shoot, your frame is very important, especially when she asks for space. Um, also, uh, each decision, each conversation, each challenge is a is an invitation to shape who you are becoming. So as the week goes by, pause, notice, be intentional. The people around you will feel it. Um, Big things are starting to happen. New conversations cutting deeper than ever. New episodes, unfiltered guests. We want you in the room. Your story matters. Finish it up, Gary.
And this is we have one more conversation next week on masculinity and relationships, and then we're going to be moving on to, I'll get into that later, but how to end the year properly. The next 2 months will be on ending the year, but next week will be rebuilding trust after the storm. So if you're ready to go deeper, join us on Thursday for a motivated men's group. Sign up for the Inner Circle newsletter at northmancoaching.com and grab your free ebook. Until next time, stand up, speak the truth, and above all, stay authentic.
Okay, end it so we can thank Gary.
Hang on. There we go.